Hello my beautiful drone flying friends. So today we're going to talk about how to fly your drone over water safely. I've got 10 awesome tips for you and some of them I've not heard before. If you're new to this channel, please remember to subscribe and hit that bell notification. Also, I want to let you know that this video is based on an article on droneflyingpro.com. I'll put a link in the description, but droneflyingpro.com has got tons of information. I'm adding to it almost daily, and it's really exciting because I'm sharing everything I've learned that's valuable to you guys. So go check out droneflyingpro.com. Okay, let's have a look at the 10 things that I think you should do when you are flying over water to make it safe for you and your drone. Okay, so the first thing is that you should fly out with a headwind. So when you're going out and initially flying your drone, I always pay attention to what direction the wind is coming from. And typically, if I'm flying out over water, I will do it like over a cliff or near some, like over a beach, for example. And so I'll always make sure that when I first take off, this goes into the headwind, like fly it to the direction that the wind is coming from. And that's because it is one of the most rookie mistakes people make. Because when they return, if you return against a headwind, you'll be using tons more battery. You'll be using a lot of energy to fight against the wind, which means you may fall short of your actual landing spot. And if you fall short of your landing spot and you're out over water, good luck to you, because that is going to cause a whole range of problems, including your drone taking a swim, which is not good, is it? The second tip is to make sure that you check the weather. So not only should you check the local weather for the times that you think you'll be flying, but also the nautical information. How high are the winds going to be? How high are the waves going to be if you're planning to do some low level shots? All of that is so important because not only you want to know like what the weather conditions are when you first turn up to your location, but also how it's sort of changing throughout the day. Are the winds getting better? Are they getting higher? Is the sun going to be doing something weird? Is it going to get cloudier? All of that will dictate really when is the best time to fly, but also when is the best time to land. Like, you know, these drones now are getting up to about half an hour of flight time. And so what you need to do is make sure that throughout your entire flight, you're getting the conditions that you want. So check the weather, check the nautical and sort of like marine weather information so that your entire flight, if you've got a couple of batteries, that could be a couple of hours, actually results in stuff that you want, the sort of images that you want, and also that the conditions aren't going to make it super challenging for you. The third thing, and it's one of the kind of things that you hear but you don't really know about, is you should disable the visual positioning system on DJI drones. Now, these DJI drones have sensors underneath. Where are you? Here. And so what it does is it sort of just always looks underneath the drone at the surface, try to create a 3D map of where it is, how high it is, if there's any obstructions underneath, that sort of stuff. But the issue is that reflective surfaces like water can completely confuse this sensing system and throw it off. In fact, it's known to put DJI drones into what's known as ATTI mode, ATTI mode, where the GPS turns off. And so your drone drifts randomly with the wind, and it's really dangerous. And if you're not sort of used to flying without GPS, it can absolutely cause your drone to take a bit of a swim, which is not ideal, to put it mildly. So yes, turn off your visual positioning system, especially if you're planning on getting those low-level shots where you fly out over the water, because only then can you be guaranteed that the information your drone is receiving from its sensors doesn't jeopardize your flight. There are some intelligent flight features that you can take advantage of. The number one thing is course lock. What course lock does on Phantom series drones, and I think the DJI Mavic series as well, is it fixes the position that the drone travels when you move your joystick. So it kind of stops any kind of sideways movement. It really makes the drone fly true. And there's also a ton of other intelligent flight features that you could take advantage of. So automatic drone shots, tripod mode, all of these things could potentially mean that it will make your flight over water safer, but also just more predictable, because that's what we really mean, and that's what we really want, is we want our drone to fly out over water and reproducibly act in a certain way, which means we know we will get the drone back at the end with all of the awesome footage on it. So yes, use intelligent flight features. They're there to help. And one particular useful one is course lock. This may seem a little bit obvious, but make sure that you have got your return to home GPS location fixed where you actually are. Now, if you rush your takeoff, if you accidentally push a software button, your GPS location may actually be somewhere where you're not. And so there's nothing worse than pushing return to home if you find yourself in a sticky situation, or the drone, loses contact with the controller, and in a couple minutes it starts returning to home, only to see your drone disappear into the distance. Go check out my other video about flyaways, but seeing your drone disappear to a place where you're not is terrifying. It's not happened to me, but it is because I always update the GPS return to home location so that I can be assured that the drone will return to exactly where I am. And if you're flying over water, you want to make sure that it's returning to you and not to the wet, horrible abyss in the distance. The sixth thing is about testing your drone with smaller flights. When you first get to a flight location, there is no need to fly as far as possible away and then come back. Use your first battery, if you've got multiple batteries, just to test out the area. Fly out over the cliff. Do you notice that the drone moves when you look at it with your line of sight? Is everything okay? Stay relatively close to yourself before doing the heroic kind of reveal shot where you reverse out. And I've done it loads of times. It's an amazing shot. But seeing your drone kind of disappear over water is a little bit scary. There is no doubt about it. And so, yes, do a smaller flight if you're unsure. Is the wind a little bit too high? Is there birds in the area that you've got to scare that could potentially sort of bump into your drone? All of these things are what you should be paying attention to when you do this kind of test flight. And I recommend you do it. Yes, it will certainly help you plan in the future for the better flights, and you can use your second battery for the longer heroic shots once you're comfortable with your surroundings and the impact they are having on your drone flight. The seventh thing, I think, is plan your route. So what I like to do when I'm flying a drone over water is, the first thing is I do my big drone out over water shot. So I may sort of like reverse it away from myself to reveal the landscape. I may sort of like look down over the waves, over sea life. I've captured some amazing footage of dolphins, some birds as well. Like all of that I've been able to do by planning my flight, making sure I'm doing the big movements first so that I can have a couple of goes at those. And then I do a flight kind of near me. So I may follow a cliff, or I may do something very close nearby, or I may get close down to the sand so you can see the texture between the sand and the rocks and the ocean and the waves. And planning to make sure you're making the most of your battery is so important, and it's something that only takes a couple of minutes just to mentally run through what you're going to do and use your battery most efficiently. And it really, really helps. Even if you're just talking through what you're going to do to yourself for a couple of minutes, that's all you need. The eighth thing is an emergency landing spot. So if you're flying out in the water, is there anything out there you could land on? Like a rock outcrop or something, or something like a boat even. I like to have a couple of emergency landing spots kind of in my mind, and a couple obviously down by the cliff. So if I'm flying out and away from myself in a diagonal, then I'll make sure that I can land sort of on the cliff somewhere. But having a couple of emergency landing spots just mapped out in your mind means that if something does go wrong, you can quickly navigate to that area, and you'll be able to get to that drone where you landed. So yes, have a couple of emergency landing spots just planned out in your mind, and it will give you a sense of freedom while you're flying over water. The ninth thing is stay away from birds. Now, the ocean, water, attracts wildlife. There's no doubt about it. So if you notice a load of birds in the area, just land as soon as you can, go somewhere else. Do not fly near birds that are breeding, that are nesting, because it can really disrupt their breeding and laying and mating patterns, and it just means that you can actually have an impact for generations if birds do not want to come back to that same spot. So please, just if you notice a lot of bird activity, don't take off, move to a different spot, because getting some awesome pictures isn't worth generations of birds not being born because you scared them. So please fly with the environment in mind. And the last thing I want to say is check the local laws, even if you're flying over water. I was flying over a dam, and the supervisor came up to me and said, "You can't fly here," despite the fact that I had seen loads of footage from this dam on YouTube and it looked awesome and I wanted to get my own. And so, yes, I was clearly in the wrong, and what I do is land, immediately apologize. We normally talk about the drone for a bit. They're normally interested in the technology and I allow them to have a look at it. I describe what I like about this, where it's from, how much it costs, all that sort of stuff. And it's really something that paying attention to the local laws, even if you're unaware of them, you must adapt and stop arguing and that sort of stuff. So yes, I would hate for you to go somewhere, spend all this time planning your flight like I did, and then not be able to fly because the local laws tell you no. So please check your local laws and regulations to make sure you can actually fly where you want to fly, even if it's over water that you think, well, it's over water, there's no one there, I'm not flying above anyone, but there are some rules. So there we have it. There are all of the things that you should pay attention to, particularly if you're flying over water. Let me know in the comments what you would add, and also go check out droneflyingpro.com because there is a ton of information that I couldn't squeeze into this video. Until next time, have a wonderful drone flight, and I shall see you in the next video.